Hey guys, enter the stars. And as I began to look through this particular portion of I Pet Goat with eyes to see, I began to see something very different than what we were accustomed to seeing in this scene. My eyes began to open and I began to understand after researching some of the sign language that George Bush was actually using in this scene that there is a much more sinister root to all of this. And that is that George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr., and Obama are all connected to this scene through the Americans with Disabilities Act that was passed by George H.W. Bush Sr. And in fact, during its passage, Tom Harkin authored what became the final bill and was its chief sponsor in the Senate. He delivered part of his introduction speech in sign language, saying it was so his deaf brother could understand. But there is something much more sinister to what seems to be the right thing to do in this country. This goes far deeper because the ADA, the American with Disabilities Act, was amended by George Bush Jr. Defines a covered disability as a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. So they extended it to cover mental impairment. Now this goes deep because as a result of this, many Americans have applied and are receiving benefits for Social Security disability. And in fact, we just reached our 26th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So now you're probably wondering, Casey, well, what are you talking about? Isn't this a good thing? Well, this goes deeper. The president actually gave an address during the Americans with Disabilities Act 26th anniversary. On July 26, our nation marked a pivotal moment in history for Americans with disabilities. The ADA sought to guarantee that the places we share, from schools and workplaces to stadiums and parks, truly belong to everyone. It reflects our nation's full commitment to the rights and independence of people with disabilities. It has paved the way for a more inclusive and equal society. For the 6.5 million students, the approximately 50 million adults living with mental or physical disabilities, the ADA has swung open doors and empowered each of them to make of their lives what they will. These are the words of the president. This year, the Affordable Care Act affirmed that Americans with pre-existing conditions can no longer be denied health insurance. And this year, we made it clear that health care providers must offer reasonable accommodations and ensure effective communication for individuals with disabilities in order to advance health equity and reduce health care disparities. So, the ADA has been now dovetailed with the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, but this goes deeper, and follow me on this. We must continue increasing graduation rates, and there you see Obama graduating. He has accomplished the goal, the single thread that has gone through all these three presidencies. And I will get to that point in a minute. Increasing graduation rates for students with disabilities to give them every chance to receive the education and training they need to pursue their dreams. We must make the information and communication technologies we rely on accessible for all people and ensure their needs are considered and incorporated as we advance the tools of modern life. And we must keep fighting for more consistent and effective enforcement of the ADA in order to prevent discrimination in public services and accommodation. He then signs this, again, the anniversary of the Americans with Disability Act. This is a big deal. And what has been the result of the Americans with Disability Act? Let me break it down for you. It has been criticized on the grounds that it decreases the employment rate for people with disabilities and raises the cost of doing business for employers. in large part due to additional legal risks which employers avoid by quietly avoiding hiring people with disabilities. Some researchers believe that the law has been ineffectual. Between 1991, after the enactment of the ADA, and 1995, the employment rate of men with disabilities dropped by 7.8%. Employment rates dropped by 7.8%, regardless of age, educational level, or type of disability, with the most affected being young, less educated, and mentally disabled men. But it goes on. In 2001, for men of all working ages and women under 40, current population survey data showed a sharp drop in the employment of disabled workers. Less disabled people working as a result of this act, leading at least two economists to attribute the cause to the act. This goes on because since enforcement of the act began in July 1992, it has quickly become a major component of employment law. The ADA allows private plaintiffs to receive only injunctive relief, basically a court order requiring the public accommodation to remedy the violations of the accessibility regulations and attorney's fees, and does not provide monetary rewards to private plaintiffs who sue non-compliant businesses. In other words, this protects the employers because the people can't sue for monetary rewards unless a state law such as the California Civil Rights Act provides for monetary damages to private plaintiffs. Persons with disability do not obtain direct financial benefits from suing businesses that violate the ADA. But this gets worse because in the past 3 decades, the number of Americans who are on disability has skyrocketed. The rise has come even as medical advances have allowed many more people to remain on the job, and new laws have banned workplace discrimination against the disabled. Now, as you're watching Bush, you very clearly see that he is acting mentally disabled in this scene, as well as using sign language. This is what this scene is talking about. Every month, 14 million people now get a disability check from the government. And now we are in the final phases as Obama says no guns for some on Social Security disability. Yes, you heard it. They set you up. They're willing to give you a little bit of money each month in order to take our guns. I was part of this as I was a pharmaceutical rep who pushed doctors to put people on antidepressants that I sold. Those people will have their guns taken away as well. Here's the article. Seeking tighter controls over firearm purchases, the Obama administration is pushing to ban Social Security beneficiaries from owning guns if they lack the mental capacity to manage their own affairs. In other words, people on disability have to have what they call a sponsor. I had a friend who kept wanting me to be his sponsor to basically handle his affairs. And I refused because it was too much responsibility. But this is what they're saying. This affects millions of people whose monthly disability payments are handled by others. The push is intended to bring the Social Security Administration in line with laws regulating who gets reported to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, which is used to prevent gun sales to felons, drug addicts, immigrants in the country illegally, and others. A potentially large group of people receiving Social Security benefits are people who, in the language of federal gun laws, are unable to manage their own affairs because of marked subnormal intelligence or mental illness, incompetency, condition, or disease. And this was the setup all along. I will put links in the description of each of the articles I referenced. And now you know the truth, you guys. The thread of deception carried over through 3 administrations working together on both sides of the aisle to take away your rights. Take care and be safe, you guys.